Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Tuesday, March 15th, Ian Cameron, Andrew McInnis momentarily as well for a Tuesday slate with 11 games on tap. We're looking forward to it. It is a huge Tuesday coming up in the National Hockey League. Huge Tuesday for us as well because Tuesday means Betcast Tuesday. We are back with the Ice Guys live Betcast tonight, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Same time as usual, and it's going to be the same fun as usual as well. We'll take you through all 11 games on the NHL slate tonight, live betting, live commentary, first period bets, second period bets, in-game bets, sides, totals, next team to score, maybe both teams to score in a period. Who knows what we'll find on the live betcast tonight in terms of betting opportunities that might arise in the 11-game slate tonight. So we're looking forward to that for sure. Tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, Alex B. Smith not on the show today with us, or Jimmy Murphy, but Jimmy's going to drop in on the Betcast tonight for a little bit. Alex will be on the Betcast tonight as well. So we're looking forward to that. Again, if you want to join us on the stream, because you guys are part of the show, we're not superiors to you. We never treat ourselves like you're beneath us or anything like that. You are part of the show. You are what makes this show as popular and successful as it is, because you tune in, you're devoted, you're hardcore, you're loyal, and you watch and you listen to the shows every day. We make you feel like you're part of the family. We make you feel like you're part of us. And the reason, and that is why for a night like tonight, and with every Betcast, you're welcome to join us on the stream, hang out with us, watch the games, take part in some live wagering with us as well. In order to do that, all you have to do, send a DM to me or anyone in the crew, and we'll make sure we get a spot for you reserved, and we'll send you the link to the Betcast before the Betcast begins tonight. So we're looking forward to that, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a big Tuesday slate, and I'm very much looking forward to breaking it down, and a great slate. Now, in terms of how long we'll be on tonight, we'll see. We'll be on certainly through the 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern games. We'll definitely stay on at least until the end of the Detroit-Edmonton game. We'll see, we'll see where things stand. You want the Betcast to go longer into the night? You want us to stick around right till the end of the New Jersey-Vancouver game, or right until the end of the Colorado, LA, Florida, San Jose games tonight? Then show up. Be on the Betcast with us in the late night hours. If it's just going to be me talking to a bunch of thin air, at 11:30 at night, then I'll shut it down. So it depends on you guys. So definitely, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to another Betcast here tonight on this Tuesday slate. All right, we've got a huge card, massive one, 11 games. Let's get right into it. Let's start it off with the New York Islanders taking on the Washington Capitals. We've got the New York Islanders Washington minus 150 home favorites in this game. The total here sitting at 5.5 across the board in this one. For the Washington Capitals, they're back home after a little excursion throughout Western Canada. Of course, they were on a road trip there that they return home from here for this matchup against the Islanders. We'll see how they end up faring in this one. Not the greatest of spots, in my opinion, tonight for this Washington Capitals team, but a team that's played a little bit better in recent games. We remember them struggling a little bit. They went through a little 3-game losing streak. They've gone 4-1 in their last 5 games since then, beating Carolina 4-0, beating Seattle 5-2, beating Calgary 5-4. In what took advantage really of a spot that wasn't the greatest for the Flames. I know we talked about it that day. And then, of course, they followed that up with losing in overtime to Edmonton 4-3, and then coming back to beat Vancouver 4-3 in overtime. They actually got off to a great start against the Canucks. Then Vancouver got 3 goals quickly in the third period to take a 3-2 lead. Washington ended up coming back and winning that game by a score of 4-3. We'll see how this game plays out. As far as the Islanders go, look, this is a team that suddenly has seen their offense explode. And the one thing we are not accustomed to saying about the New York Islanders is that this team is an offensive juggernaut. That has definitely not been the case last year, 2 years ago, and certainly for much of this season. But right now, Barry Trotz has to be happy with the production. He has to be happy about a power play that has scored 6 times in the last 5 games. He's got to be happy about a team that has scored 4, 6, 5, and 4 goals in their last 4 games, a grand total of 19 goals for the New York Islanders in their last 4 games combined. So he's got to be happy about that. We talked about Anders Lee and the run he's on right now all of a sudden for the Islanders. Brock Nelson's picking things up offensively at the moment, which has been good to see. Definitely a lots to see. 4 different Islanders are on 4-game point streaks right now. Anders Lee, 8 points in his last 4 games, 7 goals, 1 assist. 7 goals and 1 assist in the last 4 games. Beauvillier's on a point streak. Kyle Palmieri with 2 goals and 3 assists in the last 4 games. JG Pageau, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in the last 4 games. I mean, all of a sudden, where have these guys been all year? They're all collectively feeling it right now offensively for the Islanders in this one. You look at this Washington team, they're still having an issue at times defensively. They did have that one game where they bared down. They shut out Carolina. Since then, though, they gave up 4 to Calgary, 4 to Edmonton, 3 to Vancouver in those recent games on that road trip. I kind of like an Islander team total tonight. Over 2.5, minus 120. I like the Islanders a little bit too as a live road underdog tonight. I like the way they're starting to play. 3 wins in a row. Now, granted, I understand quality of competition is a little dubious. The wins were Columbus, Winnipeg, and Anaheim. Are they the best wins you could ever imagine? No. And I've not necessarily been a proponent of betting on the Islanders anytime recently. But a lot of these games recently for the Islanders, they've been, especially the last couple, they've been significant favorites. Minus 175 against Columbus, minus 200 almost against Anaheim. That's certainly not a price range I'm ever going to endorse the Islanders. But I think here in this game, the Islanders have the chance to find the back of the net. They've got Washington coming off this road trip. That's always a tricky spot. Now, they have had 3 days off following that final game of the trip for the Capitals in Vancouver, but still not an easy spot. And they're only 4-5, by the way, the Washington Capitals this year. 4-5 is their record with 3 days rest or more. So that's not exactly a great record by any stretch of the imagination. And I like what I'm seeing offensively from the Islanders. And here we go again, where I talk about the Islanders as bigger favorites are a little bit shaky to trust. I could think you could say the same thing about Washington when they're bigger chalk. We did see them lose as minus 150, north of minus 150 chalk, just around the same price there tonight in this game when they lost to Philly, by a score of 2-1. So it's not exactly a team that I'm fully confident in, laying this kind of price range with. So I like the Islanders here a little bit. I'm going to probably do a split bet here with the Islanders over 2.5, which is currently around minus 110, or sorry, minus 120. And also the Islanders here plus 1, looks like plus 130, plus 135 is what we're seeing right now with the current price here with the Islanders. See, I was interested in the Islanders from a draw double chance perspective, as well. I thought that was maybe a bet to consider here in this game, but the problem is they're not quite a big enough underdog to make that worth my while. Maybe during the betcast we'll see something pop up, especially if Washington gets a lead. You'll get a better price on that. Something to consider here in this game. But I think the Islanders are potentially very live here tonight in this matchup against the Washington Capitals. And certainly from a prop standpoint, Islander props right now, believe it or not, might be a decent way to go against Washington here tonight, because again, they've finally got some offensive confidence. Vanacek's been better than Samsonov, but he's not, he's not certain to be a guy that's going to completely shut you down in a game. So I think definitely you could see the Islanders be able to find the back of the net. The over 5.5 too. Someone mentioned that might be worth a look too, just because of the fact you've got, Washington offensively picking things up. And oddly enough, here you look at head-to-head matchups, Islanders Capitals. Now the last 2 have stayed under, but there were a couple games that went over the total. But more than anything, I've been riding the Islanders over as of late, thinking there's value there because their defense is not quite what it's been the last couple of years, and right now their offense is absolutely feeling it at the moment. And as a result, that's led to this surge of 8-2 to the over their last 10 games. So it's still over 5.5 or pass for me in this game if I'm going to bet the full game total. We've got Andrew McInnis with us. Andrew, audio only today as he's getting ready for his big flight out to Vegas. Andrew, Islanders Capitals here. What do you like? He doesn't like anything right now because we can't hear him. We'll see if
Was
we.
I on mute there? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I think you were.
Yeah.
There you go.
To
You're good.
me, I
We got
I
you.
look at the Islanders, and they have had their ups and downs, Ian, and they have one thing you said months ago when you said they're a great team in spots where they should win. And I went and looked at those numbers the day after you said that, and you were right, dominantly in games below 500 and that kind of stuff. That's where they've really shown up. But to me, is the current price what it should be for the Capitals? Probably not. But do I want to back the Islanders in this spot after they just won 3 straight games? Definitely not. I think the Washington Capitals are a team that has struggled to build consistency throughout this year, whether it's 3 losses, followed up by 3 wins, then followed up by a loss again. They've struggled to have consistency, whether it's against great teams, mediocre teams, or whoever it's against. And, I look at the Islanders' schedule for this week, as I told you I do every Monday. And yesterday I took a look at, and it's not going to be pretty for them this week, and I think the Islanders are a fade over the next couple games here. So I'm looking at the Capitals in regulation for tonight.
All right. I disagree. So a little head to head. I like that. It's just I think they're a little overvalued now, Washington, after that tough spot after that road trip. And
Like I
Islanders,
said, don't love the price.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the
just like
price,
the
yeah,
team.
yeah, exactly. You're right. That's the prices, and we're going to talk about this with Montreal, and we did talk about this last night with them. I mean, certainly a spot advantage for them, but boy, no bargain on the price, and we'll get to that game obviously in a few minutes' time. All right, next up we got Anaheim, New York Rangers. We've got the Rangers here minus 200 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. Great situational bet for me Saturday. In fact, the only thing that made me angry was I didn't use that for best bet, and I should have. Because I forget what my best bet was Saturday, but I don't think it was a winner. I don't think so. I'm trying to remember now what it was. But nevertheless, Rangers were one of my favorite sides on Saturday against Dallas, and I like the situation because of the fact they played 2 shitty games in a row, 2 terrible games, in fact, against the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues in back-to-back games. Gerard Gallant was very, very angry with his team hanging Igor Shesterkin out to dry in the St. Louis loss, saying we need to, all the times that guy is there for us, and what do we do to show that we're there for him? In that game against St. Louis, and he was not a happy coach. And they played a lot better against Dallas. Actually, they didn't start off the game well against Dallas. They were down 2-0 very quickly, but they got back on track. They righted the ship, and they got in the win column with a nice bounce back performance against the Dallas Stars on Saturday. So much needed victory for the Rangers to stop the bleeding. Now they return home and they face an Anaheim Ducks team that just can't find a way to win at the moment. They've actually been pretty competitive. They've been right there the last 2 games. They lost against the Devils and the Islanders, but 1-goal losses in both of those games. They're still battling some key absences right now with this hockey team. And of course, they just jettisoned Josh Manson to the Colorado Avalanche. We didn't talk about that, but obviously a huge get for the Avalanche on their blue line, especially with Gerard's health, a concern for them moving forward. So they send Josh Manson to Colorado yesterday. So we'll see now how that shakes up the blue line a little bit. It means probably more minutes for Andre Schuster, Simone Benoit for the Anaheim Ducks on the blue line to go with Shattenkirk, Fowler, Lindholm, and Drysdale. So depth on that blue line going to be tested because you got guys entering the lineup now, having to play minutes. Maybe they're not accustomed to it yet at the NHL level. So that's something to keep an eye on here tonight. Still without Ryan Getzlaf, the captain, Jakob Silverberg, Sam Steele, and someone that's played really well for them all season, but especially lately, Ricard Raquel. He didn't play against the Islanders and probably won't play tonight either. 28 points for him in 51 games, so it's going to put a lot more on the plate of the likes of Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, Henrique, probably offensively for this Anaheim team tonight. As of right now, I don't have a strong feel on this. I mean, certainly the Rangers, you'd expect them to win the game. I'm not laying minus 200 with them, though, in this spot. Do I trust Anaheim? This is the end of a road trip for them. They go back home. They are trying to save some face here. They're 0-4 on this road trip. I do kind of expect a good effort from them tonight. If the Rangers weren't so good at in terms of their first period allowance defensively, I might take a shot at Anaheim first period in this game, but I don't think I'm gonna. It's probably going to be a pass for me. Andrew, what do you think? Ducks, Rangers.
Yeah, great call, Ian. You said you were on. You liked New York versus Dallas there. I think that that was one of those things where if you're a coach's quote guy like you just talked about, and even just kind of storyline. I mean, this is a team that hadn't played well, and whenever Shesterkin has performances like that, you either say, okay, he had a bad game, or the team didn't play well in front of him. And I think that we can probably both agree that maybe a little bit of both, you know, but the team certainly didn't play well in front of him. And look at this Ducks team. If I would have told you right now that, this team was first place at one point in their division, would you believe me? Because I wouldn't believe you if you told me that. This team has definitely fallen off. And you kind of look at, their recent performances, the amount of goals they're giving up, 8-4-4, and then that low scoring game against the Devils. I think that back, being at home here at MSG, I think the Rangers are going to perform. But I actually have a lean, and I rarely do this with 5.5, Cian, but I actually have a lean towards the under here with the Ducks and the Rangers. I think we could see a low scoring battle here because as much as I talk about the Ducks have been allowing goals, they haven't been kind of lighting up the score sheet by any means. And I think against the Rangers, it's they have a good defensive team and a great goaltender. So I think a small lean here is what I'm going to say towards the under. It's minus 200 for a reason for the Rangers. Wouldn't talk anybody out of a regulation play with them, and I still might get to the window with that. But as for now with the show, I will say a small lean to the under.
All right.
And they're not fun to bet, the under 5.5, I'll tell you.
No, it's almost like, you got to hold on by the seat of your pants with any under right now in the National Hockey League. And certainly, I mean, just look at the only game last night, Arizona-Ottawa. If you had any piece of an under there in the first period, you're already not feeling good in that game. But yeah, it's been difficult. But I keep saying there's going to be a turn. All right. We're not going to see 7-3, 8-2 slates in the NHL trended over every night for the rest of the season. We're just not going to see that. We're at some point going to see, a little bit more tighter checking, playoff style, defensive minded hockey. And I've said this for weeks, and we'll see if Ian Cameron, the great prognosticator here, is correct. I keep saying trade deadline time. After the trade deadline is when we're going to start, which is next week. Next week, especially 2 weeks from now, keep an eye on things. We might start to see more unders. That's my thought. Teams now are going to have their playoff roster set, and then you're going to start to see the games take on even more emphasis and meaning. So that's just my gut feel that we'll start to see at least a few more unders after the deadline next week. We'll see if that indeed comes to fruition. All right, Arizona, Montreal. We've got Montreal minus 165, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. We've talked about this actually in our DM last night about this Montreal situation. And look, for me, from a spot standpoint, this is Montreal or pass for me. When you look at this game, this is tough for Arizona. They've had a long road trip. It's back-to-back for them against Ottawa, coming off a nice victory, kind of a fortunate victory. They did get heavily outshot, outplayed, outchanced. Wedgwood was very good in net. Ottawa couldn't cash in their chances, and then every single goal or every single shot fired at Philip Gustafsson last night seemed to go in for the Arizona Coyotes. What a night for Lawson Krause. Hat-trick for him in that game. It was Philip Gustafsson's never shown me consistently at the NHL level he can get the job done. So, but still, you would want him to make a save for you at some point last night if you're DJ Smith and that Ottawa team, and it just didn't happen. Everything Arizona shot toward the net seemed to go in, whereas Ottawa is peppering Wedgwood, and somehow the puck's not going in much at all for them. So crazy game in that regard. Arizona heavily outchanced, outplayed. The game was dictated by Ottawa, but that doesn't mean you win the game all the time. And sure enough, Arizona, in spite of the massive deficiencies they had about getting outchanced, ended up with the win last night. And now because they won last night and they got outplayed, you really worry that this is going to be some kind of difficult situation. Do they just, they've already had a great road trip too. Let's keep that in mind. Not only is it a dubious spot where it's third road game in 4 nights for the Coyotes, and it's also the fourth road game in 6 nights for them. But they're also off a nice road trip. Look what they've done on it. Detroit pounded them 9-2. The upset against Toronto 5-4. Almost beat Boston 3-2. That's the only loss on the road trip. And then, of course, the win against Ottawa last night. So it's not like there's a sense of urgency where, whoa, we're on a winless road trip. We got to get this win here, salvage one game. No, they've had a nice road trip. It's already been a good road trip, win or lose tonight. So this is a very, very wickedly bad spot for Arizona. But then you look at the price for Montreal here. It's minus 165. It's almost like there's, people were onto the fact that Montreal was in a good spot here. And for Montreal, they're playing 3 and 4 nights as well. Seattle on Saturday, And then they played Philly on Sunday. Now they get the day off yesterday. It's still 3 and 4 nights. And for them, it's their fourth game in, I believe, fourth and 7 for them. So it's still been a lot of games lately. And they're coming off lots of travel, too. That's another thing that concerns me for Montreal. You were in Winnipeg, you were in Calgary, in Edmonton, in Vancouver. You go all the way back home for a pit stop in Montreal against Seattle on Saturday night. You fly out now to Philly on a back-to-back, and now you're flying back home again tonight for this game against Arizona. I mean, that's a lot of travel. It's a lot of air miles. So it's a worse spot for Arizona, but this is not a phenomenal situation either for the Canadiens necessarily. But still, Montreal are pass for me. I'm just really going to stick to what's been going here with Montreal for me, and that's overs in their games. 6 straight overs for Montreal. This Arizona team is, look, they're scoring right now. Everything they're shooting seems to be going in. The Ottawa game, it was like that. The Toronto game, it was like that. The Detroit game, it was like that. But they're giving up a shit ton defensively. 30 shots, 40 shots a night. And at some point, the dam's going to burst, for this team defensively. Can't keep giving up those high danger chances, those shot counts, and expect to get away with it night in and night out. So Montreal should absolutely find the back of the net. Keep in mind, Ben Sherratt held out of the lineup tonight for the Canadiens, likely with the trade deadline impending. And Arturi Lehkonen, unfortunately, may not play tonight. Game time decision. And I say unfortunately because the guy's been playing great lately for the Montreal Canadiens. So keep an eye on that. Pretty much your usual suspects remain out other than that for the Canadiens. For the Coyotes, still no Jacob Chychrun tonight. That's the biggest absence for them at this point in time for sure. I like over 6. I think it's a slightly better spot for Montreal. But Montreal's done a lot of travel. For Arizona, it's the end of a successful road trip. Canadiens are past, but I'm probably just going to stick to the over in this one. Andrew, what do you think here? Coyotes, Habs.
Yeah, we spoke yesterday. I reached out to you guys, and I found myself a lot more involved in Canadian games recently, and I think it's just simply I've had a better read on them. But even to fade them back in the day was just a huge price, whether if you're doing regulation or whatever. I mean, they were just so horrible that it was like minus 400 for every team that played them. But now it's a little bit different. And, I mentioned this on the show yesterday with you and Jimmy, and I'll pretty much say the exact same thing. I mean, about Arizona, you get out your globe if anybody still has one, and you can track how much traveling Arizona's done. It's just all over the East Coast, and I thought their scoring touch would start to disappear a little bit. If I would have played, if I would have really gotten involved sidewise, which I actually didn't end up doing, I would have played the Senators in that one. And I ended up just sticking with the first period full game over. And I'm probably going to do the exact same thing in this one. No Sherratt is huge as far as the over is concerned. And Arturi Lehkonen, sure, he's been scoring, but let's not forget he's also a great two-way forward. That could help the over as well. Good defensive guy. We could see a lot more mistakes, breakdowns in the neutral zone, and that could help us. And, they're hanging the 6 here for us. And, of course, when you have two teams like this, you want both to contribute. You can't rely on just one, kind of like when you see an over with Tampa or Colorado. Sometimes those teams can just do it all on their own. But I apologize if you did mention this, but I want to, backtrack to that time that when the Coyotes and Habs played in AZ, and I was on the show with you, and I was thinking, I think I went best bet on the Habs or something like that, and they were down like 2-0 after the first, or it was something just ridiculous, 3-0. And I truly believe in not just revenge factors, but just the fact that teams don't forget that type of stuff. And it was a bad performance from them. Now they have a sold out, Bell Center. Fans are back. I follow every single Habs reporting possible I can. Really, I follow a million journalists and stuff from the Canadiens, at least the ones that speak English, and they said that it was a different vibe in there. It was electric. The players seemed amped up, and I think that they're going to remember what happened the last time these two teams met. So, as for now, I'm going to go ahead with Coyotes and Habs full game over 6. But I'll tell you what. It wouldn't shock me if I end up with Canadiens in regulation on my card tonight, because it's the last.
And we do have a bet cast. You can always see if you get a better price during the game too.
Yep. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one for the Coyotes. But hey, I didn't think they were going to score 5 yesterday, but also I think you and I could have scored 1 yesterday on that goalie. So I'll take the over tonight so far, Ian.
All right, liking the over here with Arizona Montreal. Now we both are in the same boat. Though. Look, and people in the chat saying, "How can you fade the Coyotes? They're playing great." It's hard. They are. They're finding ways to win right now. But this is handicapping 101. This brutal for them tonight, and it's not the only thing that's keeping me off Montreal is the price. And this is not exactly a great smooth sailing spot either, scheduling wise for Montreal, because they've been. Think about that. They've taken a flight. They've gotten on a plane to go to their next game. What, 6 or 7 straight games now? That's a lot. That really is a lot. And it started with the Ottawa game, February 26th, Ottawa to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, back home to Montreal, fly to Philly, back now to Montreal. That builds up over time. All those air miles, and wears you down. Wears you down mentally, even more than physically, in my opinion. So that's the question. Can Montreal overcome that? And obviously for Arizona, it's tricky with their situation. Obviously, at the end of a road trip, back-to-back after a win against Ottawa last night. So interesting to see how it plays out. All right, next up, this should be interesting to see how this plays out, because the Vultures are circling this Toronto Maple Leafs team right now. They're hosting the Dallas Stars. Toronto minus 140, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Another loss against a weaker foe on Sunday, the Heritage Classic in my backyard, as the Leafs fall to the Buffalo Sabres 5-2 in that game. They'll be looking to rebound. And look, they've had some losses. They've had 2 losses to Buffalo. They've had a loss to Columbus. They've had a loss to Arizona. They lost to Montreal a few weeks back. I mean, it's been tough for Toronto. They are not playing great defensively. Their goaltending's been an issue. Campbell's out with a rib injury. Peter Mrazek's had a huge opportunity now in a couple of games in a row to seize the number 1 job. He can't do it. Struggled against Arizona, got pulled in that game. And the poor guy has a great first 2 periods against Buffalo Sunday, but the back-breaking eventual game-winning goal that goes in against him cannot go in. It was a terrible goal. It was right along the goal line from a terrible angle in the corner. You cannot give up that goal if you're Peter Mrazek. And, Sheldon Keefe was very careful about not saying anything about that goal he gave up after the game on Sunday. But he's saying it with his actions tonight, because Peter Mrazek's not in the net for Toronto tonight. It's the young Swede who just got called up from the AHL, Erik Källgren, who will be the starting goaltender tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And look, first NHL start. We always say when it's these young kids making their first, he's not really young. He's 25 years old, to be quite honest. So he's not like a real young guy, but certainly someone that's been with the Marlies all year. I got to believe there's some kind of injury to the kid that started a few games earlier this year for the Leafs from the Marlies, Joseph Wall. Remember him? Started a few games earlier this year, and somehow he didn't get the call up here. It was this Erik Källgren who ended up getting the call up, and he'll make the start tonight for Toronto in this one. Of course, we did see him against Arizona in relief of Mrazek in that game. He gave up the overtime game-winning goal and stopped all 10 shots before that. You look at his AHL numbers, terrific early in the year. He had an injury, and then all of a sudden his numbers coming back from that injury. I think he had a sub-900 save percentage with the Marlies after that injury. So it's kind of a tale of 2 seasons for him. He was good before the injury in the AHL, and then after he came back, he really struggled, and his numbers declined significantly. So it's interesting to see how he fares here. Look, I'm not laying any price with Toronto. I can tell you that right now. There's no Austin Matthews, of course, serving first game of his 2-game suspension for the cross-check to the side of the head, the neck area of Rasmus Dahlin in that game against Buffalo on Sunday. So that's a big loss, because he's been in on a lot of the offense and the goals lately for the Leafs. It means you're going to need more from Nylander. Marner's got to do more. You got to hope John Tavares finally finds the ocean that he has not been able to find for the better part of the last several weeks with his shooting. Bunting, you need more. Can Mikheyev, can Nick Robertson get going? Nick Robertson is going to be a good player in time. He's kind of like looking like someone, though, that right now doesn't look like he's quite ready for the NHL level of speed and pace, and this level at the moment. He's kind of struggled in these games, but someone's going to have to step up here for Toronto tonight offensively, and they're going to have to help out this kid, Källgren here for Toronto in net for them. It's not just he's got to play well. You got to help him out, be good defensively, active sticks, block shots, do all that, box out, in front of the net, do all that stuff. Help him out. We'll see if they do that here. But for me, it's Dallas or pass from a side perspective. For me, it's over or pass from a totals perspective. How many times have we talked about we need the goalie to step up for Toronto? We need the defense to step up for Toronto. I've said this now for several games, and all we keep seeing from the Leafs is giving up 4, giving up 5, giving up 6, and the games go over the total. We just keep seeing that. So stop talking about it. Better defense. Stop talking about it. We need a save and good goaltending. Stop talking about it. Show me. Until then, Dallas or over for me in this game. Andrew, what do you think here? Stars and Leafs.
Yeah, I'm coming with another contrarian opinion here, Ian. And you say this is tough for me to even say out loud. My lean for this game is actually the under 6.5 here.
Yep.
It might come to a surprise to some people, but you put a
Not to me.
goaltender in that no one's ever really heard of. What happens all the time?
They
Teams,
dig in.
yeah,
Dig
they
in
dig
deep.
in,
Dig
they
in the
rally.
trenches and get it done and help them out, block some shots, clear the front of the net. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And Dallas, they're no surprise to be in a low scoring game. I mentioned them all the time this year. I mean, they have kind of been a little bit different this year and have been involved in higher scoring games, but they're no stranger to low scoring affairs. And we are getting a 6.5 here. And oh yeah, let's not forget they're missing their best player on the Maple Leafs. And like you just talked about, I mean, there has been depth, of course, and it could slap me in the face, and Marner could go for 2, and John Tavares could break out and have a good night. But you have to think that in that locker room right now, there's no concern to their offense. There's no worry to if this team is offensively capable. There's not. I mean, and again, how many times could I have said the same thing I'm saying right now, and then they go out and allow 5 goals to Buffalo? But I just think in this game in particular, it's one of those spots where we could see, a boring first period that could set me up for a good under for the rest of the game. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for here. They have to keep the puck out of their own end. And you can guarantee that Sheldon Keefe at practice isn't working on breakout drills. He's not working on 2-on-1 drills. I think he trusts his guys to score goals. It's all about defense. So I'm going to go ahead here with the under 6.5, Ian, and it's a value play on that half goal we're getting here with the 6.5.
Yep. On a night where we've seen this theme happen before in the NHL, where there's a young goalie coming into the net, and everybody steps up and they get the job done. We've saw this with Garrett Sparks. Well, he's not a young guy, but Sparks with LA. Earlier this year, we saw Fucale with Washington when he made a start earlier this year. I mean, there's just been so many examples, of this situation that Andrew's talking about. So it's not without the realm. It's definitely within, I should say, the realm of possibility. Maybe Toronto could step up their game and as a collective defensively tonight, help out Eric Shalgren here in his first ever NHL start. But yeah, this is a fascinating watch. And, it's great we're on the Betcast tonight while this game's unfolding, because it's one of the more fascinating viewing games of the night. How does Toronto adapt, defensively? How do they play without Matthews? And how does Shalgren look here in between the pipes for them tonight? So it's a fascinating game. Great to have a game like this on the Betcast tonight with so much intrigue behind it. No question. All right, next up.
Could be a good middle for me, too, if I end up getting like a 4.5 or something like that. That'd be the dream.
Exactly. No doubt. You have a chance for that. So all things that could unfold here on the Betcast tonight while we're on the air. All right, Vegas and Winnipeg. We've got Winnipeg minus 130, home favorites here. 6 the total in this game. Man, has it been a rough road trip for the Vegas Golden Knights. And man, there's all of a sudden as well, their hold on a playoff spot is tenuous at best right now. And it is definitely becoming a concern. All that nice leeway they had and cushion they had earlier this season, it's pretty much dissipated. So this team needs a win badly. Frustration is starting to boil over, too. If you watch after the Columbus loss Sunday night, another one that gets away from the Vegas Golden Knights, Chandler Stevenson saying, we got to grab our nutsack and we got to start playing. That's really that was pretty much the exact quote. So this, basically a frustrated group right now. And look, do they need to play better? Absolutely they do. But find me a team that when you've got Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Riley Smith, 3 of your top 6 forwards out, when you've got 2 of your best defensemen out, Alec Martinez and Braden McNabb, and you've got your number 1 goalie out, Robin Lehner, you explain to me how you're expected to win games at a high level and consistently with all of that artillery out. It's difficult. It's tricky. Obviously, goes without saying when you lose that many impact players on your team at one time, you're going to have a difficult time winning hockey games. We're not splitting the atom, figuring that one out. Obviously that's the case right now for Vegas. But for one night here against a Winnipeg team that is just as up and down as it gets, one night they could beat Tampa Bay, and then the one night they can lose 5-2 to the Islanders, which are two results that we've seen from the Jets here in the last week or so. And then, of course, they come back from that Islander loss and they beat the St. Louis Blues at home in a building where the Blues play very good hockey this year. A 4-3 overtime win against St. Louis, and they were trailing going into the third period of that game and ended up winning it by a score of 4-3. So give Winnipeg credit for that. But boy, this feels like it's Vegas finds a way tonight. I mean, they're at their lowest right now. That Chandler Stevenson quote resonates that, hey, maybe that's something the team needs, like a slap in the face, a pick me up, maybe a sign to some of the players that are taking the spots of all these injured regulars right now that, hey, you got to step up now. It's okay. We don't have Pacioretty, although Pacioretty might play tonight. It's still a game time decision for him, but he didn't play against Columbus. So that's why I have my doubts that we're going to see him tonight. Riley Smith is still out. Janmark's still out. Houghton's still out. Stone is still out. You're not getting McNabb and Martinez back tonight. Ben Hutton, another defenseman on IR now as well. Leonard's still out. So you're going to go to, I would say, probably Laurent Brossoit against his former team. Let's not forget that little element, too, a little sidebar story. Laurent Brossoit was Connor Hellebuck's backup in Winnipeg the last few years. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to maybe be starting against the Jets and his former team. So that's got to amp up Brossoit a little bit. And as far as Hellebuck is concerned, Andrew, who's starting tonight, he did make some big saves against St. Louis to help them win that game down the stretch. But there were still a couple of goals that shouldn't have went in, that I thought he had bad rebound control, just lost sight of the puck. And he's still overall, for the better part of the last 2 weeks, he's not played well. Connor Hellebuck. Now, he did enough to help them beat St. Louis, but he's still got to play a little bit better. This is kind of like that Rangers Stars feel to me from Saturday with this game tonight. Like it's a Vegas spot. For me, it would only be looking toward the Golden Knights. What do you think here, Andrew? Vegas, Winnipeg?
Yeah, I think that we don't like to buy into, you and I don't talk about sharp money in public and all this stuff, but people are way too down on the Knights right now. And I think it's a buy low spot here. I mean, we're getting the Vegas Golden Knights plus 110 here against the Winnipeg Jets, who I've said it are the definition of inconsistent. Vegas 1-4 the last 5 games, and sure, they haven't looked like themselves. Sure, they've been fun to kind of poke fun at, and that game against Buffalo, even we can have our fun with. But when it comes down to it, this Vegas Golden Knights team is still a good team, and now we're getting plus 110. They're both desperate teams as well, but this is the last game of their road trip, and I'll actually be at that game on Thursday. Probably not going to be on the show. So I'll say it like this: probably right now, I'm probably going to be looking at the over between Florida and Vegas. But I'm looking at Vegas plus 110. I'm right here with you. I mean, you can definitely bet I'm not going to be looking at Winnipeg minus 130 against a top team like this, even though they're 1-4 the last 5. The small slump is built into the line here. And the odds makers still think Winnipeg is better than they are, and I disagree. So I'm going to go ahead and say Vegas as a dog tonight is a great play.
Here we go. Vegas plus 110 for Andrew. We're both liking the Golden Knights a little bit here. And look, this is the end of the road trip, which has not been good. When you're losing to Philly and Buffalo, it's not been good. And then if losing to Pittsburgh was kind of expected, and losing to Columbus is not a horrible loss, but still, I mean, to give up 6 to the Jackets, disappointing. They would go 0-5 on this road trip if they don't win tonight. So I think there's huge focus for the Golden Knights. Now, focus alone doesn't win you hockey games, but whatever best complete team, like everybody just empties the tank tonight and does a little bit more to get you a desperately needed win to wrap up this disappointing road trip with at least at 1 W. I think everybody goes that extra mile to get it tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll see if we can bring if they bring that kind of intensity that I think they will. And I think that Stevenson remark after the Columbus loss stands out too. It's time to grab our ball sack, nut sack, whatever he said, and go to work. It's time we get moving here. We'll see if that results in a spurred on Golden Knights side tonight against Winnipeg. All right, Pittsburgh National.
Real quick, Ian, those quotes, even though they're not really professional, those are ones you want to take into account because it means he didn't really care how he sounded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how you know he's pissed off.
Yeah.
He put away his media voice for a second and just said whatever came to his mind.
Yeah.
Clearly, anyway.
Yeah, and because he sees the losses mounting, he sees this been a shitty road trip so far. He sees them falling in the standings to the point now where their grip on a playoff spot is tenuous right now at best. So it's basically, hey, wake up, let's go. Whatever best game you got, whatever the most you can give to this hockey team in this game tonight, give it, and then let the chips fall where they may. That's why I said go to work. So we'll see if the Vegas Golden Knights do indeed go to work tonight in the Peg against the Jets. All right, one of the better games tonight, Andrew, certainly. East-West matchup here, Pittsburgh, Nashville. We got even money here, both sides, 6 the total in this game. You look at this game here, Penguins, obviously it's been a great run for them lately, 5-2 their last 7 games. The only losses were Carolina in overtime where they had a lead and they let it slip away, and then Florida, with no shame in that, and they made it interesting at the end but fell short 4-3. They bounced back to beat Vegas and Carolina each of their last 2 games. A nice little rapid revenge spot for Pittsburgh Sunday against Carolina after they let that lead slip away in Carolina against the Hurricanes just 9 days before that. They got their redemption with a 4-2 win against Carolina on Sunday afternoon. We'll see if they can carry that over here against Nashville, who spoiled Mikko Koivu's big night with his jersey retirement ceremony in Minnesota. Nashville spoiling the party, 6-2 victory against the Minnesota Wild on Sunday night. Very impressive from them, especially with them being on a back-to-back. They lost at home to St. Louis before that, 7-4, but a nice bounce-back effort from the Nashville Predators here in that game. This is an interesting game. I don't know if I have a strong feel for it right now. I'm kind of reluctant to go against the Pens right now. I like the way they're playing at both ends of the ice. Again, the Penguins, we've talked about this now for several games now. They're playing as well as they have all year. They're as healthy as they've been all year. It's really only Brock McGinn and Jason Zucker, who's been out all year, essentially, that are still missing for the Penguins. Other than that, they've got everybody there. Gensel, Crosby, Malkin, Rust, Letang. Of course, Dumoulin missed a game there, and he came back against Carolina. He's healthy again, too. So they got everybody, Pittsburgh. But they do have Casey DeSmith starting tonight. So that was what's probably got me a little more cautious on taking Pittsburgh in this game tonight. We'll see how it goes. Could actually have me leaning a little bit to the over with DeSmith and net. And the one thing about Nashville is they've kind of trended that way from a total standpoint as of late. In their last 10 games, 6 of them have gone over the total in their last 10. Each of the last 2, they've scored 10 goals in their last 2 games, but they gave up the 7 spot to St. Louis. Pittsburgh's one of those teams that, they've played mostly under hockey, but I think since they've gotten everybody back, you've seen their offense come to life a little bit, and they're not that automatic dead nuts under that they've been in the past. So I'll have a little bit of a lean to the over here in this one. And by the way, 2 straight meetings between these teams have gone over the total. Both of the meetings in the last season they played each other head-to-head, which was the 2019-2020 season. Both of those games went over the total. There was a 5-2 game win for Pittsburgh in Nashville, and then there was a 6-4 home win for Pittsburgh against Nashville in the second meeting. So both of those games ended up going over. That would be the lean for me tonight here. Andrew, what do you think, Pittsburgh-Nashville?
Yeah, I've talked about how great Pittsburgh is defensively, but when these 2 teams meet, I think I'm going to agree with you what you said there quite a bit, and I'll keep it short. I think that in Nashville tonight we're going to see both teams trade, and what both teams have done recently. Both their teams, they've been involved in some good games against good teams. Look at the games Pittsburgh's played recently. You could think potentially, Ian, this could be one of those. I hate to use the word letdown all the time, but it could be a spot where they do, give Nashville a few goals. Excuse me. And I think that, both teams will trade. So Nashville is playing good hockey, but they give up too much. And I don't think their defensemen can keep up with the speed the Pittsburgh Penguins have. We started to see some more depth pick up for the Penguins, as I think you mentioned it, or somebody mentioned last week on the show, that their depth has kind of slowed down a bit. So I think in this game, we could see both teams kind of pick it up from all their lines and get over 6 here. So, but I have a feeling, Ian, I'm going to pull the Alex here. This could be a good live betting game. I have a feeling this could start slow and then pick up a little bit. Good betcast game.
Good betcast game. I agree with that because my opinions on the total here also, Luke. And DeSmith, to his credit, Joe Flyers is right. He's played a little bit better lately. No question about that. He is actually coming into this game undefeated in regulation his last 11 starts, 6-0-1, 2.43 goals against. He's played a lot better. Yeah, he gave up 3 against Carolina in the loss to the Hurricanes last game, but he also made 39 saves on 42 shots. So he still played pretty well. Before that, he gave up 2 to Columbus in a win, 1 to New Jersey. He did give up 4 to the Flyers back on February 15th. That one, you'd like to see him play better, especially against a team like that. But he's played a little bit better lately for the Penguins, Casey DeSmith, and they found ways to win. It seems like in some of these starts for DeSmith, they've provided him some run support, if you will. So we'll see if that's the case here. I mean, Matt Duchene points is something to consider, even against this good Pittsburgh team for Nashville. He's been just ripping it up right now, Duchene. Forsberg starting to percolate. I'm always interested in some of those down the lineup guys for Nashville from a goal scoring prop. I've talked about Tomasino before. I've talked about Tanner Jeannot before. Definitely considerations there in this game. It's a good goal scorer, and there's definitely some on Pittsburgh that are of interest as well for me. So I'll mention some props too for this game once we're doing the betcast tonight before this game drops the puck. All right, next up, Boston, Chicago. Boston minus 175 road favorite, 6 the total in this game. I certainly favor Boston. Do I want to lay minus 175 in this game? No. Bruins in regulation, you could consider. This is probably a game I'll wait till the betcast to do something with it. Certainly, Chicago's a team I've been noting their over trend, 6 straight overs for this team. And, I've been on a bunch of them with this team. Boston, Chicago, I was on that game over the total, although that game was a 5.5 with the total. I was on Ottawa, Chicago over the total Saturday night. That game flew over the total. So Philly, Chicago on that Saturday ABC game a couple of Saturdays ago. I was on that one over the total as well. So they're over or pass for me from a totals perspective right now, the Blackhawks. They're still scoring. They really are. I mean, they're offensively, they're doing good things right now, the Chicago Blackhawks. Dylan Strome can't be stopped. He's been absolutely phenomenal lately for this team. He scored again against Ottawa. It's just been an incredible run for him lately. I've been taking his goal scorer prop every game lately, and it's been coming through. He scored 2, 1, 3, and a grand total of 7 goals in the last 5 games for Dylan Strome. And how about 10 points in the last 5 games for him? So you talk about Dylan Strome props being on the radar for me tonight in this game, even against Boston. I think definitely you got to look at that for props tonight involving Chicago. As far as Boston's concerned, they're fully healthy pretty much now. The only guys missing are just a couple of depth defensemen, Uho Vakanainen and Jakub Zaboral. That's it for Boston. Everybody else is pretty much healthy right now for them. I lean to the over here, especially with Allmark confirmed for Boston. He's a little bit weaker of the 2 goalies compared to Swayman, especially the way Jeremy Swayman has played lately. Fleury's in net for Chicago, but hasn't necessarily mattered lately because they've been piss poor in front of him. The night that Fleury gave up 6 against Tampa, a lot of bad breakdowns in front of him. He gave up 3 to Anaheim in that 8-3 game that Chicago won. And then, of course, he gave up 3 against Ottawa the other night in the game they won. They have won each of his last two starts here, Fleury, against Anaheim and Ottawa. But you're not playing those teams tonight. You're playing a surging Boston team that obviously has played some very good hockey, 8-2 in their last 10 games. So we'll lean Boston in regulation, but more interested in maybe over the total here. Andrew, what do you think? Bruins, Blackhawks?
Honestly, Ian, nothing in this game for me. I would lean towards the over. I think Bruins games have been more profitable to the over than they used to be, that's for sure. But the Blackhawks, hard to argue that with those guys. And, I have been defending goalies a lot recently, and I defended Marc-Andre when he went to the Blackhawks because obviously it was a drop down in defense. But let's be honest here. I don't think it's going to happen, but every Leaf fan that thinks Marc-Andre is going to be the saving grace, like, he's not prime time Pittsburgh Penguins Marc-Andre Fleury right now.
Or even Vegas Marc-Andre Fleury this year.
I don't know who they think he is, but I've been the kind of guy that says goalies are measured also by their great defense. Look at Frederik Andersen. You think he misses Toronto? I don't think he misses Toronto, It's not the goalies in Toronto, but they'll find that out in probably 5 years when Dubas is fired and they realize it wasn't the goaltenders the whole time. Put Mrazek on the Carolina Hurricanes and tell me how he plays.
See, now you're adding fuel to the fire, Andrew, of all those people that say the Leafs are in your head all the time. This somehow got on the track of the Leaf situation.
Oh, I love doing it. I love doing it, though. But that's the thing, though. Marc-Andre Fleury, he hasn't been great, is my whole point, you know? And it's all about defense. It's not about your offense. It's not about how you are as a goaltender. And I think that he's been a huge factor. Even every goaltender in the Blackhawks have not been great. And it's the defense in front of him that's not solid. I still think Marc-Andre is a great goaltender. And even for the Bruins as well. They've gotten better goaltending, but Jimmy's talked about it. How many defensive pairings do you think are great for the Bruins right now? How many defensemen would you want to pick up if you were drafting a team on the Boston Bruins? Can you name that many?
That's a good question. That's a really good question because I'll tell you what, I like Charlie McAvoy, obviously. I think Carlo is pretty solid. Riley, no. Grizzlick's too injured. All the Forbert and Clifton are just depth guys. I wouldn't want that.
Exactly.
So I'm at McAvoy, and maybe if I pushed it, maybe Carlo. That's about it. Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So both these teams kind of have the situation where the goaltenders are pretty good, but they get blamed every time every time the goal they allow a bunch of goals. It's not their fault, or it's their defensemen sometimes. You'd think that I would have played goaltender growing up or something, Ian, the way I defend goalies.
Yeah, I know. I know. It sounds like you're Kevin Weeks on the panel or something, always picking up for the goalies or something. But no, in this case here with Chicago, I will say this about Fleury. He has not been as good as last year or 2 years ago, but he's not been so garbage either that he should be giving up the goals he has. A lot of it's been in front of him has been just suspect for Chicago, especially of late. There's no question. Has he not played as well himself? I think he would say he hasn't played as well as he did last year, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair assessment and an accurate assessment of Marc-Andre Fleury. He hasn't been nearly as sharp or reliable this year, but a lot of it too is just the bit of problems in front of him. Breakdowns, giveaways of the puck, that kind of thing. Too soft in terms of coverage right in front in the goal crease area. That's been an issue as well for Chicago. Penalty kill has struggled, all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot of the team defense, but there's also a portion of this story for Chicago that Marc-Andre Fleury hasn't necessarily been quite as good either for them. All right, next up, we've got Detroit and Edmonton in this matchup. Oilers minus 250, home favorites, 6.5 the total. In this game, Detroit continues to just struggle. It's heartbreaking to see the way they're playing right now. I don't know about this, a little over melodramatic, but not heartbreaking. But it's just a team that I thought was going to be giant killers, coming into the season, be able to beat some really good teams and really be a tough out. And to see this team, you talk about teams defensively that have no clue right now. That's Detroit. I mean, to see their defensive game just go right down the old shithole the way it has. It's just absolutely scary to see how bad they've been defensively these last few games. And don't be fooled for one single solitary second about that 3-0 loss to Calgary on Saturday night and think, oh, they only gave up 3 in that game after giving up 6 to Minnesota and 9 to Arizona and 6 to Florida and think, wow, they figured it out. No, they did not. Thomas Greiss was actually incredible, especially early in that game. Shots were like 25-4 in favor of the Calgary Flames at one point Saturday night against Detroit. They didn't figure out shit defensively. They were still bad. It's just that Calgary ran into a goalie that was just out of this world good on Saturday night. And Calgary also, I don't know what it was. Mangiapane had 3 multiple chances where he had a wide open net, and I think he dubbed the shot each time, fanned on the shot, dubbed it every single time that he had that opportunity. If just 1 or 2 of those go in, it's 5-6-0 Calgary instead of 3-0. They didn't figure out anything defensively. Anybody that watched that game, you guys in the chat, I mean, you got to agree. If you watched that Calgary-Detroit game, that was all Calgary. That could have been 10-0 if Greiss is anything less than spectacular in that hockey game. It absolutely should have been another ugly defensive game for Detroit, and it's another loss. And they still gave up 3, but man, it could have been a lot worse. I'm going with Edmonton team total here. That's what I'm zoning in on in this game. 3.5, you got to lay a little price. I get it. -145, -150. It's not the greatest price, Edmonton's team total over here, but I'm going with it. They've got their confidence back at least a little bit. Back-to-back victories against solid teams, beating Washington in overtime last Wednesday night, and then beating Tampa 4-1 in a very solid performance. And there's no fluke. There's nothing fluky about that 4-1 win against the Lightning. If you watch that game, you know that as well. They dominated. They carried the play. They outshot the Lightning 49-32 in that game. They deserved the victory. That was two very solid performances in a row from the Oilers. I thought they actually outplayed Washington as well for much of that win that they got, which was good to see. Koskinen in net's been, I'm not saying he's been great, but he's been serviceable. He's actually had his best stretch of hockey, Mikko Koskinen, in net lately the last couple of weeks for Edmonton. He'll be in net tonight. We don't know who's going to be in net for Detroit. The one worry is they go back to Greiss. I would think they will after how well he played against Calgary. Nedeljkovic has been a mess of late, but no goalie confirmation yet for Detroit. Either way, by the way, they still have some key injuries up front. Bertuzzi out. Robbie Fabry was losing him for the season. It's so disappointing for Detroit. He was really playing well of late. And, of course, for the Oilers, same guys that have been out lately. Jesse Puljujärvi, Nugent Hopkins, Russell still out for them. But I'm going to go with Oilers team total here, over 3.5. Andrew, Detroit, Edmonton.
Well, it's funny, Ian, we've been on a lot of the same page and a little bit different, but it's kind of the exact same way I'm thinking here. This is one of those ones where even the regulation isn't something I love. I have a little bit of some parlay action involving the Oilers tonight, but I'm not going to bring that up on the show today. I'll just talk about the team total and over 3.5. And it makes me laugh when you say you feel bad for them because they're bright. The future's bright. It's just a massive prospect pool right now, as far as the Detroit Red Wings go. Different teams and these are the kind of wins at home that the Edmonton Oilers just cannot pass up. I use the term letdown spot sometimes. Well, this can't be one of them. This cannot be one of them. The Oilers have to keep their foot on the gas pedal. This is one of those situations for them. You know, they're not in the North Division anymore. This is one of those ones. You got to get out. You got to get out front and play the rest of your 20, 25 games and finish strong because you might not even make the playoffs, you know. So you don't want to look back and think, oh, man, remember that game in March against Detroit when we lost? You know, they don't want to be doing that. But having said that, I don't want to take the puck line. I don't want to take the reg line. I'm going to go ahead with the team total. Hope for 4 goals here from an Oilers team that I think will be up to the task.
All right, good stuff, and I agree with that. This is a good prop game, too. I'm going to save those prop recommendations for the BetCast, and I got to remind myself, Andrew, there's so many times, like, you get caught up, right? We got a lot of people on the BetCast with us. You're trying to watch all the games, and next thing you know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern time flies up on you and comes up on you before you even notice it, and the games are ready to begin. You don't give out your next bets for that next game. I'm going to make a point of it. We're going to take a few minutes and give you bets before each game that starts later. I mean, the 8 p.m. games, 9 p.m. games. So I will have a bunch of goal scorer props for this game tonight, Detroit and Edmonton, and points props even. And I'll mention those on the BetCast tonight, which is, again, starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. DM any of us if you want to join us on the BetCast, and we'll make sure we send you the link for the BetCast before it begins. All right, New Jersey Devils, Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver -145, home favorites, 6 the total in this one. This is going to be the shortest analysis ever for me on a game. Death taxes, Vancouver overs. I'm done. Give me the over. Andrew, floor's yours.
What was the score the last time these two teams played? 7-2?
Yep.
I'm not saying it's going to be that lopsided, but I had a play on the over the last time they met, and I'm going to do it the exact same again. And what's the old Ian Cameron phrase? You know, lose for me once, that's all right. I'll get back on it. Lose for me twice, you know, that's where you start changing your mind about a trend. Vancouver may have gone under in the last one. Does not mean I'm jumping off the ship here. I'll get right back on. The Devils have talent. You know, I've given them a lot of respect recently as far as the talent that they have, the goal scoring ability. And not going to lie, Ian, their games are fun to watch, man. They are. They're enjoyable to watch. But that also means there's a lot of back and forth action. A lot of goals are scored on breakaways and 2-on-1s. And there's a lot of neutral zone turnovers that are created. And it's not good if you're the Devils or even the Canucks heading into a game like this, if you think that you're going to be able to play good defense. So I'm real shocked we aren't seeing a 6.5 here. Really am. So I'll take over 6 with you.
Yep, the over streak came to an end against Tampa Bay on Sunday night, 2-1. But you could tell Tampa Bay wasn't screwing around that night.
10-1 run, right?
Yeah, it was 10-1.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 10-1 to the over their last 11. The 10-game over streak got snapped by Tampa. Tampa wasn't screwing around. I mean, Vasilevsky got embarrassed the last time he was in 2 games in a row. Vasilevsky was subpar. The loss to Calgary was subpar, and certainly the loss to Winnipeg early in that road trip for Tampa Bay. He did not play good. He didn't look like Andrei Vasilevsky. And look, he played a lot. He was terrific, I thought, against Vancouver on Sunday night. And their defense was good. They tightened it up. They wanted to. And that helped the game stay under the total. I think now Vancouver, they got a little bit looser New Jersey team coming in here, but a New Jersey team that, as Andrew said, they've had so much value with their props for a while now. As you know, Hughes and Bratt in particular have been excellent for them of late. Sharon Govich more at home, but definitely Bratt and Hughes have been definitely the key catalysts. Now they're going to miss Hischier potentially tonight for this game, questionable with a lower body injury. We'll see if he ends up playing. He was a full participant though, in practice yesterday, so it makes you think that he's probably leaning toward playing. But again, we'll see if that's the case. I lean New Jersey too. Some people in the chat like in New Jersey. I do, but the one thing that concerns me is Vancouver got embarrassed, right, by New Jersey that game, 7-2, and it wasn't Thatcher Demko that night. It was Jarl Halak. It will be Demko tonight for the Canucks. I just like good chances, I think, of this game going over the total. We'll stick with that in this one. All right, we're down to our last 2 games, Colorado, Los Angeles. Can the undermanned, depleted, shorthanded LA Kings be dragon killers once again? We'll see tonight in this one against Colorado. Colorado minus 210, minus 220. Road favorite, 6 the total in this one. I really don't have a good feel for this game pregame. I thought for sure the Kings, especially after seeing them get absolutely crushed by San Jose, crushed on the scoreboard and crushed in the injury report, because that's the game where they suffered. They lost 2 or 3 different players to injuries, and some of them long-term injuries in that loss against San Jose. And then they had to try to bounce back and play the Florida Panthers the next night. And I'm like, good luck with that. But to see LA somehow gut it out, find a way, take the game, tie it up late, get the game to overtime, and then eventually a shootout and win. What a gutsy, gutted out effort by a severely undermanned team. And I'm not sugarcoating it when I say severely. You've got 4 starting defensemen out for you right now. 4 that regularly play on this Kings blue line. Sean Walker, Alex Edler, Drew Doughty, and Matt Roy. They're all out for LA on this, and they're all regulars. That's 4 of your 6 right there that are on the IR on the blue line. How about up front? You've got Dustin Brown out, still a good 2-way player and can chip in offensively, but especially away from the puck and the faceoffs and blocked shots and penalty killing. You miss him there. Arvidsson's out up front. Athanasiou, who had really started to play well for them, he's out. So there's key cogs up front as well that are missing. So a lot more has to go on the plate of Deneau, Kopitar, Iafallo, Kempe. Trevor Moore stepped up. I give him credit. And that's someone I've cashed a couple big plus price goal scorer props with lately. We'll see if LA can ramp it up one more time against another elite team. But, sometimes with these teams that step it up and pull a big upset against a great team when they're very, very depleted and injury riddled, they do it for one game, they step up, and then they don't the next game and they fall off again. I find more often than not, they rise to the occasion one game. It's very hard to rise to that occasion a second straight game, especially when you're missing the kind of key impact players that LA is right now. So it's a pass for me, but I'd be weary of just looking at it and saying, wow, they stepped up against Florida. Maybe they can step up tonight. Let's take LA plus 185. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on that. What do you think, Andrew? Avalanche Kings.
I mean, you just listed awesome injury stuff. We also talk about, that big win they had with, I got to do it, Ian. Shout out to Martin Firk with that one. Man, what a blast that was. I saw a tweet from somebody saying no matter what, if he's in the AHL or in the NHL.
Yep.
Yeah. If he's in the AHL or the NHL, that guy should be in the slap shot competition because holy crap, he can fire the puck. And he's been grinding his way up through the AHL, then the NHL. Hopefully he gets to stick up there. But I think that sometimes those wins can help gather confidence. And sometimes those wins, you're just breathing heavy. You're proud of yourself. You're like, man, what a win against Florida. And then, oh, yeah, here comes Colorado. Are you ready? That's kind of what I see it as for tonight. So I actually think this is a cheap price, believe it or not, on Colorado. Doesn't mean I want to lay 220. No, I'm probably going to look at the regulation. But I'll be honest, if you're somewhere right now in the world, and you shouldn't be, but if you can't bet regulations, just like at some of the sports books I'm going to be at actually in Vegas, probably you can't bet regulations. I honestly wouldn't talk anybody off playing Colorado at this price or finding a dance partner for Colorado to be partnered up with here. I don't. Even a Colorado Florida parlay tonight, I couldn't talk anybody off of. I think Colorado gets the job done, and I think it's in convincing fashion. And I think LA's too injury riddled. They won't be able to keep up with them.
That's the big question. That's $1 million question. They gutted one out against Florida. Credit to them. And a back-to-back, no less, because they were in San Jose the night before. And then all of a sudden, now you got to do it again against Colorado. And look, Colorado, I don't think is going to just say, you know what? We snapped our little funk there. 4 of 5 we lost. Came back home and we shut out Calgary 3-0, which was a great performance. One of the better, just good games completely top to bottom from Colorado in that game. Kemper was terrific in net. Calgary came on as that game went on, but he played very well. They got out to that early lead. They peppered Dan Vladar early in the game, and they ended up getting that lead and hanging on 3-0. And again, they've got a couple key injuries too. Byram and Girard on the blue line. Landeskog's out, of course, indefinitely. We're not going to see him for a long period of time. But still, the Avalanche do have depth. And LA has got an infirmary right now in terms of the injuries they're dealing with. So, again, we'll see if LA can step up again. But this is more of a let's see how it starts out this game, and we'll go from there in terms of betting it. All right, final game. Before we get to the final game, let's do DraftKings now before we get to that final game, which is Florida San Jose. And just remind everybody, of course, DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. And, of course, great sponsors here with the Hockey Podcast Network and the Ice Guys. Great book to use, of course, in terms of NHL betting. A reminder that you can, if you're a new customer, you can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right. A bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, and use the promo code THPN. All right, the 11th and final game for this Tuesday NHL betting breakdown on this edition of the Ice Guys. It's Florida and San Jose. Florida minus 240 road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. We just talked about the Kings, depleted as they were, somehow pulling off a mammoth upset over Florida on Sunday. And now Florida will be looking to bounce back from that loss here on the road. I'll tell you what, though, about Florida. They're way more susceptible on the road. They continue to be, have issues at times on the road. I mean, that 26-6 home record stands out. And then you look at what they've done on the road, and they're only 14-13. They're only one game above 500 on the road. I thought they were starting to play a little bit better on the road prior to the LA game. When you look at what they had done, they pounded Buffalo. They beat a very good Pittsburgh team on the road, beating the Penguins last week 4-3. They'd started to play a little bit better away from home. But obviously in the first game of this West Coast trip, they fall to the undermanned LA Kings 3-2 in a shootout the other night. So they'll be looking to bounce back. It's a tough spot here because you think they want to bounce back, but they got a huge game with Vegas coming up, which Andrew will be going to and be in attendance for Thursday night at T-Mobile Arena. But still, after losing to LA, I would think there's some onus to bounce back. Look, San Jose, people are going to say, wow, they've won 2 in a row. Maybe San Jose is going to get going. No, they just played the LA Kings, who they own. I really think that's what it is. And if you look back at the Sharks against the Kings, they have owned the LA Kings. There's always that one team you struggle to beat, and for the LA Kings, that's the San Jose Sharks. For some reason, they have had all kinds of issues trying to beat San Jose. They beat the LA Kings twice back to back. Let's see them try to beat Florida here in this game. Now, they did give Florida some problems way back in January. 5-4 overtime win for the Panthers. So they needed to work literally overtime, to beat San Jose in that game. So they did give the Panthers some trouble in that one. By the way, James Reimer is back. They've been without Hill and Reimer for a long period of time. They've had to go with the Zach Sawchenko in net at times. Aiden Hill with Aiden Hill and Reimer both out, but Reimer is back tonight for the San Jose Sharks. He's recovered from his lower body injury. He last played on March 1st and allowed 1 goal and 11 shots before suffering that injury. But this is a guy that's kind of been struggling since Christmas. He has been struggling for the most part. I mean, he's given up 3 goals or more in the majority of his recent starts, going all the way back to January and February. He's been off now for 2 weeks since we last saw him in net. How sharp is he going to be? And look, when you play Florida, you better be sharp in between the pipes, or that offense could eat you alive. So I lost with Florida team total over 3.5 on Sunday night. I'm probably going to go back to that same bet here. Florida team total over 3.5. It is minus 150. You got to lay a little price, but I'm going to look toward Florida here to get me 4 goals minimum tonight against the San Jose Sharks. Andrew, what do you think here, Panthers and Sharks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I expect very similar stuff from Edmonton as I do with Florida, and I said you can parlay them two together, or you can just take them both with their team totals. But I think that this one in particular, wash, rinse, repeat sometimes, most of the time, with the over with the Florida Panthers. Don't always see it. And you talked about it on the show yesterday. Don't always see it with the Panthers. But I think in this game, we're going to see the over. I think the San Jose Sharks, we're going to be able to get a few themselves here at home in Florida. Coming off a couple interesting performances, a little bit up and down for them. But I think that you got to look at that team total for Florida as well. But with this one, I'm going to look at the full game over, and I'm going to pair together Edmonton and Florida in a 2-team money line parlay. So I said I wasn't going to mention some of my parlays, but there we go.
There we go. No, that's nothing wrong with that. And I'll say this about San Jose. I mean, last 2 games, now again against LA, and for some reason they just dominate the LA Kings. But San Jose did come to life offensively, and they had been struggling to score goals. I mean, they had 1 against Vegas. They were lucky to get 3 against Seattle, 1 against Boston, shutout 8-0 by Nashville. They only scored 2 against Anaheim, but last 2 games, 9 goals in the 2 games combined against LA. So maybe they can find the back of the net to help you out here with that over 6.5 in this game. And one player prop to mention, because I'll be on it again. It didn't cash the last game for Alex Barkov, over 1.5 points. But still, he's had multi-point games for the Florida Panthers in 4 of the last 5 games. Finally only had a single point in the game against LA. That lost 3-2 the other night. But prior to that, he had 4 straight games with at least 2 points. It's a good bounce back spot. Barkov over 1.5 points, which is plus 140. Great price on that. I've been betting that a lot. So we're going to get back to that tonight as well. There's a couple other goal score props I'll mention. Hopefully on the BetCast we'll get to this game and maybe still be on the air. Again, how long are we on the air tonight? The $1 million question. For as long as there's people joining us. Like, if it's just me talking to myself at 11:30 tonight during these late games, I'm shutting it down. Simple as that. So if you want the BetCast to go longer, send us a DM in the late night hours. Join us.
Yeah.
Send me a DM and I'll send you the link and you can join us. We'll definitely be, I've committed for sure, Andrew, we'll be on for all the early games and right till the end of the 9 p.m. Eastern game, which is Detroit Edmonton. We'll be on for all of that. So approximately 11:30 p.m. Eastern. But if you want me to go right till the end of those real late games, those West Coast games, New Jersey, Vancouver, Colorado, LA, Florida, San Jose, you got to show up. Join us in the late night hours on the BetCast. So there we go. That's the way it's going to work. But we will be on the air 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, live BetCast. Looking forward to it for sure. Great stuff, Andrew. Great analysis. Fun card to break down. Yeah. But it's time to wrap it up
real
now.
quickie. And Tyson Jost just traded from the
really?
Colorado Avalanche to clear up some cap space.
Yep, definitely.
So he's on his way to the Minnesota Wild there. And the Avs clear $1.275 million in cap and now have $600K in projected cap space, which translates, they said, to $3 million in face value cap at the trade deadline day. So that tells you something.
No doubt. And that tells you that they're planning something. Something's going to go down for the Colorado Avalanche prior to Monday's trade deadline. They're clearing cap space. They're looking to make more moves. And again, they've got Byram and Girard. They already moved to get Manson from Anaheim yesterday. I think there's still maybe another forward they'd be looking to add potentially. How sold are they on Kemper? Certainly gave them a great piece of evidence Saturday night. He was phenomenal against Calgary. But are they fully trustworthy of that duo, Kemper and Francouz, for a long playoff run? So lots of interesting possibilities, I guess you could say, for the Colorado Avalanche going into that trade deadline next Monday. And by the way, we'll probably be on the air. Well, we will be on the air for a show next Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be the last hour or so of the trade deadline. So I'm sure we'll be reporting on a lot of trades as they happen next Monday when we do this show. So looking forward to that. All right, best bets to wrap up our Tuesday show. Andrew, what do you like for best bet?
Best bet. Let's go with the Vancouver Canucks and the Devils over 6. If it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. And just because it happened one time to go under for the Canucks, I don't expect them to go right back to an under again. So love watching these two teams play, and they're usually involved in some very exciting hockey games.
All right, there it is. New Jersey, Vancouver, over 6. Best bet here for Andrew on this Tuesday card. My best bet, I'm going to go with this, kind of a spot play, kind of like what I had last on Saturday. And I was, ended up regretting not using the New York Rangers as a best bet. I'm going to go to the Vegas Golden Knights, plus 110, plus 115 against Winnipeg. Stevenson had that quote, "We got to start working. We got to salvage one game on this road trip." This is that game because this is the last game of the road trip for Vegas. They need something good to happen. Winnipeg is capable, and that was a good win for them against St. Louis, and there was some good saves down the stretch from Hellebuck, but there was still a couple of goals earlier in that game. You'd like to have seen him stop. He's still been more bad than good lately, and this whole Winnipeg team, they've had trouble stringing together good performances, and I think they get Vegas's best and biggest punch tonight in this game. So Vegas plus 115 against Winnipeg for my best bet for this Tuesday NHL card. Jeffrey, I prefer Oilers team total over 3.5, but if 4 is all you can get, I'd still say go ahead, because even if they land on 4, it's a push for you. So I'd still say bet it. All right, good stuff. The Betcast tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that. And if you want to join us on the Betcast on the stream, send me a link and I will send it to you. Great stuff. Andrew McInnis, great stuff from you. Looking forward to the Betcast tonight, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It'll be an opportunity for me to kind of just unwind after what's shaping up to be a very busy day of just planning things and packing and running around and stuff like that. So I won't be on the entire time, but I'll definitely be on. Kind of like what I usually do, I guess, to be honest with you. But you know how it is. Not going to see my girlfriend for probably like 5 days. So I think it would be kind of, for lack of better words, kind of a dick move if I just spent it on the computer my last night with her.
No, if you're on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's good. That's enough. Yep, absolutely. No, we get it for sure. Great stuff.
It'll be fun. Lots of good games today too. So I'm happy it's not like last night, which is one bad game. Then again, it was 5-3. But
that's why we avoid Monday and Wednesday Betcast, because a lot of times it's 1, 2, 3 games maximum. Yeah,
definitely. But look forward to it, man.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. We'll see you in a few hours, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Ice Guys live Betcast for a big Tuesday night slate. Betcast tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us then. Looking forward to it. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow as well on Wednesday for our regular show, 2 p.m. Eastern, another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.